Great.
Okay, so we're live. This is the Classical Coffee Concerts Patreon subscribers extra. Very, very pleased to have to be joined by somebody who I feel I know quite well now because Raisa, you've come to recitals, you've performed recitals for us in Faversham quite a few times now. This is Raisa Zapryanova, who's a viola player, and she's giving the recital this Saturday. And at one point, she's accompanied by Stefan Chaplikov, who's the pianist, and then there's some solo viola stuff. We'll get into the program in a minute, but Raisa, thank you so much for putting this program together for us. And just tell us, firstly, whereabouts are you now, and what's going on for you kind of right now?
Well, welcome to Plovdiv. Welcome home. That's my hometown. Um, and in these interesting times, very challenging for the arts and for young people, uh, one can hold on only to one thing. I mean, that's art and music for us. So although I lost all my current and future work,
Right.
I I was extremely I feel extremely fortunate to have access to something that can inspire me and that can keep me motivated and keep me focused, because that's the only thing I can do. And it's to I think for the artists we need to just work as hard as possible individually, still practice, do, be creative as much as we can, because yeah, we can't lock music down, we can't lock Brahms down. No, so it was, and I'm very grateful that you kept on from the beginning straight away. We are going to continue the recitals. Not that nothing's going to stop us. That meant a lot, and it um, just to know that there is some thing to work towards, and that there is someone who will listen, and people will still keep gathering every Saturday morning, and that wonderful community that has given me so much love. I have to say, I feel support, just genuinely. I've always, when I played there with Alvaro, with the viola quartet, I just always felt a lot of enthusiasm for um, young performers, and for actually quite a lot of openness for new repertoire, and
Sure.
for um, unexplored, just a curious audience that doesn't always want to hear the standard
Sure.
viola
And
repertoire.
we'll talk a bit more about your really interesting program in a minute. So you're back in Plovdiv, that's your hometown. Yeah. And
This is this is my hometown. In fact, in a intro, in a very I would always say unsuccessful introductory video that I'm about to send. I recorded it today from the antique amphitheater. I just wanted to show the best place in town to your
amazing.
audience.
Super.
So although I don't say much,
And
sorry.
so I was just saying, people in Plovdiv have been really supportive of you as well. I think, have they? So where the recordings.
Now it was an interesting timing for me, because in Feb I always knew, for me as a performer, it's extremely important not only to be freelancing in London, but to hold on to a project that is valuable to me, to keep creating projects for my that I find meaningful, and that those things have always given me a lot of. It's a lot of extra work, but I think it just keeps me connected to what is. Yeah, it gives me much more than I give to it. If it,
Sure.
it gives me life, and so I on the example of my teachers were never the conventional orchestra viola player and so on. They were
Yeah.
artists. Both my teacher here in Plovdiv, who has premiered enormous amount of work, and of course Rivka Golani, who has 300 works, new works for viola written for her and that she worked. And I have, I always was just, it feels so wonderful to be a first performer, or you really have a piece, and to work directly with the composer, to discover the instrument through their ears and through their perception of what the viola could sound like. So, and
Yeah.
be it is just fascinating because it's particularly the viola is an instrument that is still developing so much now as a solo instrument.
Well,
So
yeah, it seems to be. And so, just to ask you, so the Velislav Zaimov piece. So he's a Bulgarian composer, but he's from Sofia. Is that right? And so, and that's it, listening to it and reading about it this afternoon. So that's like very modernist in a very limited sense of what modernist means. So it's a very direct access piece. It's a very beautiful piece, and we'll come to the Brahms in a second. But the Brahms, I know that Brahms wasn't sure how well he wrote it for the viola. But my question now is the Zaimov and the Tapkov, are they both? How do they feel on the viola? Are they technically,
yeah,
easy pieces for viola, or not easy, but are they written with lots of viola sensibilities?
both of the Topkov solo viola sonata was he worked with my teacher here when he was writing it. So again with Brahms, and that was my link for this. In some way, not a straightforward connection with the pieces, because what is the link between Brahms and? Well, I would say the link is that they were. The performer, Brahms arranged it because of Joachim as well.
That's right.
The Topkov worked with my teacher here. On the actual writing of the instrument, Zaimov also worked with two of the teachers in the Sofia Academy. So they worked directly with the performer in the creation of the piece, and
Okay.
that's been one of my main points with this program, is that if the performers are not active in supporting and performing contemporary music,
Yeah.
then the link will stop. The composers lose motivation to write. And I am doing another important project for me, and so on. I can tell you about it later. But the main link was the I just know of all these Bulgarian pieces that are written for viola, performed once, premiered, and never again. And I wanted
Right.
to collect them, to do the research, and with close collaboration with Velislav Zaimov, who is also a student of Tapkov. So there is.
So you've got that direct. So you've got a direct link from Tapkov, the composer. He only died a few years ago, I think. Is that right? And then
Yes, and in fact, in the last movement.
So go on.
Sorry.
No, go
In the
on.
last movement of the sonata, my teacher tells me how he knew he had cancer, and
Okay.
you can feel that's in the yeah, you can feel that in the
Yeah.
toughness, in the intervals, in the it's
Yeah. The
very
emotional weight of both of those pieces. They're
mm.
beautiful pieces. They're such beautiful pieces. They're
I
just
knew you would appreciate them, and I really
yeah.
did. I really do. There is we played. So there are funny links as well. I played actually this duo piece with the same violinist 10 years ago before I left for London. And
Okay.
that was so now I just told her let's revive it. That's not as interesting as the I think the what is very interesting about Tapkov and both composers. Bulgaria has a very strong folk culture. Extremely advanced folk tradition, and there is so much in the folklore that a lot of the contemporary, that was the mission of the composers in the last century, I would say, what to do with that material in the context of Western music.
Okay.
So there was, as I've played in Faversham, even Pancho Vladimir, who is more of a classical Bulgarian composer. Let's say those are contemporary examples, but
Yeah, yeah,
he would more do a quotation, or they would use directly the motifs and so on. While Topkov and Zaimov, particularly Topkov in the second movement of that sonata, they treat folk very differently, more as intonations, more as rhythmical organization
yeah,
rather, and it's not so direct copy paste, it's more of an intellectualized
yeah. You can hear
idea.
you can hear both the pieces kind of open out and kind of lay out the all the color of the viola and all the different capabilities, which is why I guess I was asking, are they, do they feel the way you play them, it sounds like they understood the viola. They really understood how to write for that instrument.
They did work directly with the performers,
That's
and
right.
also there is, of course, both of. Now, the main thing is that both of these composers are two very prolific figures in Bulgarian
Yeah,
culture. So they were extremely cultured and educated, and they were teaching themselves. They are both composition teachers,
yeah.
which means that know perfectly well the instrument, but
Oh, and that's
the
clear.
instrument,
Yeah,
but also the polyphony, and to be a
exactly.
composer here is very hard.
And
Yeah,
then you
very.
come, and then if you come back to the Brahms, and okay, so people will know the Brahms possibly more as the clarinet concerto, and you're right. So as you said, sorry, that Brahms transcribed it for the viola because it would make it more popular and make it more available to more players. But I think, am I right in that Brahms, he didn't just straight transcribe the clarinet sonata. He adds double stopping. He adds bits to the melody. So it becomes, and it effectively becomes one of the first viola sonatas. I think, is that right?
Yes, and then there is the gap, and then 20 years later is the Hindemith and Rebecca Clark and Bloch. So there is, he writes it in 1890,
Mm.
I think.
No,
Sorry, yes,
I
but
can't remember either. No, no.
and but then there is that's effectively really the first pieces viola
Right, yeah,
sonatas,
yeah.
piano
And
sonatas.
he's not sure, as he said. He writes to a friend and says that he's not sure how clumsy it is. But as a performer, do you feel it? Does that is that got good viola sensibility behind it?
Um, I've always have been taught that I should make everything comfortable, so I would never know if it's me or
Okay,
I would
okay, yeah,
I would think first of criticizing myself than Bram's writing, if you know what I
fair
mean.
enough.
But there are definitely the challenges, and again, um, in that program are that of course playing with piano in such density and such Brahms writing,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the registers and how do you make it sound really equivalent to the piano? After all, I am just one voice in his fingers
yeah, yeah,
in a way. So there is such richness of the writing that it is very challenging, but also matching the colors of the piano. Very often that sonata is performed very perhaps indulgently, sometimes too much, but one has to always keep in mind that there is that that's a very intricate writing, and I'm only a voice. So
yeah.
with it also trying to match.
And
Yeah.
actually, I mean, so the quality, the way that the recording is balanced, that you and Stefan have performed. So thanks to the people who gave you that space, and it's a very beautiful piano, and it sounds really beautiful. So where was that recorded again? What was that space?
Well, I've told the academy in Plovdiv. We have a
Gotcha.
beautiful academy for music and dance, which I actually spent 1 year before I came to London. They have been extremely supportive of my project
Right.
with the Bulgarian compositions. Again, I did my first recital on it with different works in February, right a week before the lockdown.
Right. Right.
And it was an incredible experience where I had all my yes, I mean, I had a lot of support from the academia here. I think everyone was extremely happy that this is happening. And it was my return after 10 years for the first time I played here. So a
Ah,
very challenging and very emotional and beautiful experience. So from then on, from then, I think that will be also a beginning of doctorate, perhaps.
wow.
Um,
Okay. Right. Okay.
on that subject. Although I am, this wasn't. In some ways, yes, it is directly linked, but also I just am extremely grateful that they are just very supportive. I mean, it was a clear decision when I found out that the academy is working here, that there is some movement. Rehearsals are allowed. I couldn't in London. I couldn't rehearse with.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I would have to waste time. Just one thing, it's completely different to be able to actually spend time with the people and rehearse. And so it was a clear decision when they said yes, we will provide the hall, all the rehearsals. In fact, they close in the beginning of August. So until then, if you want another Brahms, we can do the F minor. We are ready.
So, because my last question was going to be about the future, but it sounds like the future, even though it's a very difficult time for artists. So you've got a potential doctorate, you've got a recording of the Bulgarian music. That would be amazing.
The doctorate is started now. I think I just
Amazing.
need. Yes. So
Oh,
I
great.
this my first concert was the one in the end of February was my beginning. But it's that was my entrance and it was very well received. Thank God. So
Yeah,
now I would have an opportunity to open my imagination and work very closely, particularly with Professor Zaimov on his works, and he has fascinating combinations for a viola. He wrote a lot for viola, but also for viola and flute, bassoon, marimba. So
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
very,
very diverse. So, listen, Raisa, I really appreciate you talking to us. We're very excited about Saturday's recital, and we're even more excited about welcoming you back to Faversham just as soon as that can happen. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I hope people really, I know people will really enjoy it. It's such a rich and beautiful program. It's a beautiful thing. Thanks very much.
thank you, Ben. Thank you. And I thank you and everyone in your wonderful community for not letting a concert down.
Okay, thanks.